Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. How you doing? Hopefully you've had an amazing... Let me do that again. That's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that sound right there. How's it going? Welcome to the Unfiltered Call-In Show, where we talk about Agile, Scrum, entrepreneurship. Yeah, whatever you want to talk about is what it's all about, right? So we're going to have a discussion today, and today's topic is the top 5 reasons why Scrum fails. So we got to talk about that today. Our agenda is really very simple. We'll go through a little bit of intros here. We'll do some check-ins in the chat, so if you are new here, just say hi. If you've been around and you're stalwart, say hi, right? Drop it in the chat. I'll holler you out in just a minute. Let's see. What's been going on? This past week has been a recovery week for me. Like, I probably did 3 weeks straight of classes. Moved the daughter in, had family members that had problems, and it's been a whole situation, right? So it's been an interesting week, but last week I kind of did a recovery week, and I kind of is what I did last week. And now I feel like a whole new man. Like, I feel like I'm about to get ready to make life happen in a whole different kind of way. I don't know. Not too much else going on. Labor Day's coming, so hey, next week, Labor Day, we're not gonna have a show. I can, but y'all don't show up on Labor Day. Y'all don't show up on Mondays if there's a holiday. People just don't show up. I'd love to have a show. I don't have no problem. I'm gonna be at home. So, but assuming there's no show next Monday, so the week after that, we'll get back to it. So we'll be skipping Monday so then everybody can have an opportunity to spend time with their family, and then we just kind of go from there. Other than that, really, I don't really have any big classes scheduled toward the end of September. This is the time where I start my classes in terms of the PhD program. And so I got to get got to get things under my belt and still do a little bit more recovering, cleaning up, just some internal Bearded Eagle stuff, some internal Devon A. Morris stuff. So got to get that stuff done. Let's see. What else is going on? Let's check out the chat real quick. Let's check out the chat, right? So, hey, Philip, tell your wife hello. If she's not here, tell her I said hello. Miss Shanita, so how you doing, Philip? My man, Patrick, always a pleasure seeing you, brother. Again, if I ever truly get back to traveling, New York is my spot. I love New York. I always have, right? So I'll be there sooner or later, right? Hey, here goes Jamila calling me Mr. Morris. She trying to make me feel, oh, we got twin daughter names. Like, we have twin daughter names. That's what I know, right? And it looks like she went to Brandon Land. Wow. So, Jamila, you found Brandon Land to be amazing. Yes? Yeah, that's my guy, John Signo. Love him. I will say to you all, anybody that's looking for a job and need to get their LinkedIn together, try to get their brand right, stuff like that, Brandon Land is the place to go with my guy, Bearded Eagle alumni, John Signo. Amazing. He gives you a ton of knowledge. So always will give him a plug. And they don't charge much for the class. Just so you know, it's normally associated with the PMI Dallas Fort Worth chapter. And you do not have to be a member of PMI to actually attend the Brandon Land class. So you can see Jamila went. I think Jamila was in my class within the past 3 weeks per se, right? And so she went to the Brandon Land, got some value out of it, so that's good. So thank you for that feedback. I'll make sure I call John at some point and let him know he's still doing an amazing job. Makita, how you doing? How's it going? Let's see. Hey, Kawana, how you doing? Hey. Hey. How you doing now? Let's see, Jennifer. Am I looking buff? Am I looking buff? I'm working, I'm back in the gym. I am back in the gym. Like, I literally am back in the gym. I went in and did some, I went in the gym and started doing some presses, and I was like, woo, I'm back. Like, I didn't do a whole lot initially, but then I've been back on it. So tomorrow I get back in. I'm gonna hit some more weights. I'm back weight training. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited. Then dropped 10 pounds. So I'm like, it's about to be on. I still got to be in fighting trim because I still got 2 daughters who happen to not be married yet. And I still need to make sure my weapons are ready to go. So that's what my objective is, to be fit enough to make sure that I can chase people away. Anyway. But no, thank you for the compliment. I do appreciate it, okay? Hey, how you doing there, Amber? How's it going? How you doing there? Let's see. There go Miss Shanita. How you doing? Let's see. Who else is here? Hey, Chuck's putting in that. What? You say I'm putting in that work? Well, hopefully you put in the work. I'm putting in the work. We putting in the work. That's what we doing. We all putting in the work, man. Hey, look, man. You see, Jamila called me. You see Jamila say, Mr. Morris. I prefer Uncle D. So you don't know my age. I don't really care about my age. I'm going to be 49 this year. I had somebody tell me that I looked like I was way younger. My father enjoys, because my father's really only 18 years older than me, he enjoys when we go out together and people consider us to be brothers. I can understand, because I actually do have a brother that's 21 years younger than me. I got a brother that's a year and a half younger, 10 years younger, and 21 years younger. My mama did it. It is what it is. All right, so that being said, let's see. Let's see. Oh, one more person here. Hey, Evelyn, how you doing? Evelyn, how's it going? How you doing? Evelyn always shows up sometimes on the show. So, once again, you all know how this works. If you don't know how this works, if it's the first time you're here, here's how it works. We're going to talk about the topic real quick. We normally spend about 10, 15 minutes on a topic. And then we will open the chat up for any questions that you have. If you have some questions, great. If you don't, then you don't have to ask any, right? If there are no questions, we shut things down early. If there are questions, hey, man, I don't mind staying here all night with you. I just don't. I ain't got nothing. I don't have anything better to do, okay? But here's the deal. There's 2 ways to get your questions answered. One way is by dropping your question in the chat. But that way will always get trumped or overridden if someone phones in or basically digitally calls in, okay? Where they're on the screen with me and we're actually having a conversation, okay? So you can digitally phone in, digitally call in, or you can drop your question in the chat. And I will go through, once we're done talking about the topic, and answer any questions that I can in the chat. I typically get through them all, so it's normally a good thing. All right, so that being said, if you are interested in joining us on the actual show itself, I always drop the link here. Just know that we won't be getting to anyone in the chat until this phoning in digitally until roughly probably about 20 minutes after the hour. That's what we normally get to, 25 minutes after the hour. So I just dropped that link, so you're welcome to queue up in the green room if you have a pressing question or something you want to talk about, or even if you have a comment. It's all good. It works. All right, so that being said, let's talk. The top 5 reasons why Scrum fails. This isn't a complicated thing. These are things that I think most of you all will be aware of. The first one I'm going to say is going to be probably the default statement that everybody says. And it's really the cop-out one, right? It's the one where people say it's all this, and that's really it, right? And that number one thing, well, I'm gonna say my fifth thing, because I'm gonna go down to what I think is number one. That fifth thing is culture, and a culture that is unwilling to change. Okay, now that can boil down to management, that can boil down to, I guess, some other factors, but in general, there's an unwillingness to change. It may not be the right season for that organization at that particular time. They may have reasons why they really are not changing. But the idea is that the culture sometimes is just overbearing, and it's just not going to lend well to change. And that really does happen. And when that does happen, it's okay. That's that organization. And a lot of people tend to compare Scrum and think about this ideal Scrum versus what company is at. And my statement to you clearly is, let the company grow how the company decides to grow. If the company's not ready to make that change, maybe they're just not ready. Maybe it's just not their season. Maybe they get started, and you know how somebody who don't work out for a while and then they jump back in the gym like they're Superman and they hurt themselves. Maybe they're going to hurt themselves or damage themselves in some kind of way. I don't know what the logic is behind it, especially when you feel like somebody has brought it in, like some executive management or something like that. And it really sucks when the culture just still don't want to shift. But that may point toward top management not being bought in. It can point toward many, many problems. Again, if the organization, the culture is not willing to change, the biggest thing I would say to you is probably small experiments. Small experiments. It's kind of like you still can almost do stealth Scrum to a degree, but you're not going to have true big major wins because you just don't have the support across the organization. You will have certain maybe departments, certain areas that will not support you, so you'll only be able to do it between your walls of what you have control over. So culture would probably be a big one. Okay, I want to move on to number four. Number four, and I wrote my list down because I had to sit down and think about it. Number 4 is an inability to establish a commitment. Now, for some of you all, you have seen this a few times, right? And the heartbeat of Scrum, I mean, literally the heartbeat of Scrum, right, is literally the sprint, right? The sprint is really the heartbeat of Scrum. And I remember going into an organization where somebody pulled me to the side like ninja style, right? Almost like an assassin. And pulled me to the side and was like, we've tried this 3 times. We failed 3 times. And the number one problem that we have is we can never get to the end of the sprint and finish the commitment that we started with. Okay? Now, that commitment can go up to the release level. That commitment can go up to a whole project, all kinds of things can happen there. But when you have a lack of commitment to getting things done, you may find that you might be better off using some other agile framework. This might be a place where I lean into if the culture's still kind of wanting to live and breathe the values and principles of the Agile Manifesto. This is why I may say to myself, Scrum may not be a good idea for them right now. It may not be a good idea for them, and that's okay. For those that know a little bit about Kanban, pound Kanban, throw that in the chat. You know a little bit about Kanban, pound, throw a pound, Kanban, not Kanban. Kanban, right? If you are involved in Scrum whatsoever, you should know something about other frameworks that exist. Right? You should know something about other frameworks that exist. You should know about Agile in general, right? You should. Does it make sense? You should. If you don't, you need to learn. If you don't learn, that's another problem. Okay? Maybe a cultural problem. Okay? Number three on my list. And this right here is an interesting one. Because if you've experienced it, if you've actually been inside of a culture where you've experienced this, you understand the difficulty that you're going to go through in trying to make the change. And sometimes the organization just can't, round the corner on this one. And it is that they have environments that will simply not allow it. Their environments just will not support you being able to do it, right? To some degree. And sometimes they build structures a certain way. Sometimes it's how they put all their processes together, and that they change one little thing, everything's just just a house of cards and will fall apart. And I've had situations where you go into an organization and you only can do Scrum just around the developers. I mean, the software developers, and that's it. Not in general, anybody that's working on any part of the system. Just you only can work on one part of it because the other pieces would break if you happen to change something, right? That right there is a whole problem. Okay? Is this something that you can... Problem is, this one you probably can't solve overnight. Because it could be how they've built their infrastructure. It could be how they built their architecture and processes to support that architecture. Now, does that mean that it can't change? No, that does not mean that it can't change. But tied with that environment being kind of unwilling to give, you probably got a culture that's supporting the unwillingness of it giving too. So you kind of get a double whammy when you're talking about an environment that doesn't allow it, an environment that doesn't support Scrum, and this might be an issue where you might need to do some other things first. This is where I see people try to start off with sprint zeros and stuff like that because they can't move well, which is not necessarily a good idea because that's not going to help them in the least. Because sprint zero is a sprint prior to sprint one for the preparation for sprint 1 through N. And then you classically see people still do things in a very waterfallish or a very let's complete all of this one part of the life cycle before we move on to the next part. You still see the same process just done in smaller batches is what you end up seeing. But if the culture, if the environments don't support it, you have a bigger problem. You have a real huge problem. Another, the number, let's see. I did number 3. I'm down to number 2. Okay. So the second one on my list, I think is a pretty big one. And I know that this is not one that you readily would know offhand. But if you dug a little bit deeper, if you had the opportunity to see a little bit deeper, you will see this number 2 on the list. A lot of organizations don't really have a catalyst for the change. They don't have a reason for the change. They tend to say the same thing. Time, money, deliver more scope. It's the same conversation, right? It's kind of like one of those things where the story that I heard in terms of Salesforce. Now, again, I haven't talked to anybody that was at Salesforce, but the story that I heard is that their catalyst was, hey, we was going to go out of business, so we implemented Scrum because we were facing some true financial difficulties. But now think about your big company that has always been successful and has been around for 100 years, and they've had extreme levels of success without Scrum. What's their reason for doing it? Is there a reason for them changing? That catalyst for change may be the thing that doesn't get people moving in the same direction. Does that make sense? May not get people moving in the same direction. So it's very concerning. It's very concerning when you don't have an idea or a catalyst for change. Okay? Now I have a final one here, and this final one is a little bit cryptic because a lot of you all would not think of this being the top thing on the list, but I firmly believe it's number one on the list because I believe firmly if you have implemented Scrum or made any kind of change and it's not moving the needle, what's the point? You understand? If it's not moving the needle in some way that you desire, what's the point? So my number one thing on my list is that there is no focus on value. Return on investment, whatever you want to call it. Okay? Doing Scrum for the sake of just doing Scrum turns into it's just another process in the building. It's just another, just pick and choose whichever one that you want to pick and choose, and it otherwise doesn't make any sense. And this doesn't just boil down to the product owners, right? Because every time you do a project, obviously you're doing it to do something with it. Normally there's some return on investment associated with it, whether it's revenue, time saved, product utility, whatever it's gonna be, right? But the idea is that if you don't have any idea of what value you're trying to achieve or what value Scrum is there to achieve, do you really have a North Star? Do you really have a direction that you're moving forward in? And I would say to you, fundamentally, you probably don't. Probably if I look at when Scrum got kicked out the building, when I first seen it get kicked out the building, the biggest problem that we had was there was no focus on value. And I look at it a microcosm. We was on time, on budget, with whatever we delivered. Scrum still got kicked out the building. But we delivered a lot of things that wasn't used by anybody. You understand that statement? We delivered a lot of things that wasn't used by anybody. That was a problem. That was a whole problem. Does that make sense? Hey, Miss P Bell. She always reminds me to tell people to like and subscribe. So please like and subscribe. It actually helps the channel out. It helps us to grow. And we're trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. So I always forget to say it. But I need to write a script so I can say it in the future. Anyway, but my point is, no focus on value is going to put you in a position where you have a very stagnant implementation of Scrum. It's just going to be stagnant. It's not really going to move anything, and nobody's going to be excited about it because really nobody sees the reason or need for it whatsoever. Okay? So I'm going to back this up, right? I'm going to go from top of what I talked about down to the bottom, and then we'll open up the floor for any questions that you have. I dropped the links in the chat already, so you can queue up to join me on the show, or you can start dropping your questions in the chat. Number five on my list, right? And I got it written down. Culture. Culture is just, that's the number one thing that people always say, okay? Number 4, inability to establish a commitment. Number 3, your environments will not support it, will not allow it. Number 2, no catalyst for change. And number 1, no focus on value, people. No focus on value. That's it, y'all. That is the top 5 reasons why Scrum fails. Literally. Can you think of any reasons different than that? If you can think of a reason different than that, drop in the chat. Because I know I may have missed something, and you may think that there's something higher than what I've actually put there. If I missed something, or you think I'm wrong, drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat. Other than that, I want to go ahead and open the floor for any questions that people may have, so then we can start dealing with those questions and answering them as we continue to move forward. So, that being said, love it, love it, love it. Let's go. Always go to the top. Let me take a look here. Let's see. All right, so, and Jennifer, tell your husband he's welcome to come to class. I look forward to seeing him. Let's see. Bulk season. Yeah, it's bulk season. I know you said that to me earlier. Let's see. Since Kanban is an older type of framework, and some companies are still using this, how can you get familiarized with it? You can take a class on Kanban. There are Kanban classes. Literally. There's a whole Kanban certification. So you can actually go get certified in terms of Kanban if you really truly want to. And, Kanban in the agile space is not old. Kanban in the agile space is the youngest of them. It's one of the youngest, right? Now, if you think about Kanban from a Toyota standpoint, yeah, that's old. Right? That's old, right? But again, Kanban didn't really come around in terms of agile till like 2006, 2007. David J. Anderson, he has a book called Kanban. Go read it. There are definitely free resources that tell you all about Kanban. So I don't think it's difficult learning about Kanban at all. You just got to put in the effort, do a little bit of research, and I think you'll find what you need to find. But if you're not willing to do that, you can always take a class, right? There are people that provide that certification and do such an amazing job with it. So just know that, Amber, those things are available to you. So take it as an option, okay? So good question. Let's see. I don't know if this is a question or not, but let me check it out. I'm looking for more mentors to coach me and help me be a better Scrum Master. What would be the best way for me to go about finding a mentor? I really would say to you, go to some Scrum user groups. So let's talk about mentoring for a second, right? Let's just slow down. Let's slow down and let's talk about mentoring. Because people don't get truly how mentoring works, right? Let's first start off, what is mentoring designed to do? Mentoring is succession training. Let's try it again. Mentoring is succession training. I just saw my guy right here. This is my godfather in Scrum right here, Tom Miller. All right, so mentoring is succession training. And the problem with mentoring is if you're mentoring for free, normally those people don't have the time to dedicate towards you, unless they're truly altruistic, right? And you add to that, they just don't have the time. Well, they don't have the time to help you because they're busy with a lot of people. And there are people that do mentoring for free. There's no question, okay? Now, you can pay for a mentor, right? You can pay for a mentor by joining some group that has mentoring built into it, right? The other thing that you can do is start just communicating with people. Like if you join a Scrum user group, you're going to learn some stuff. They can have topics that normally happen on a monthly basis at various Scrum user groups. If you really wanted to dive so deep, there are several user groups across the United States of America. For example, you probably can find a user group every single night, maybe 2 every night that's going at different times. So you can actually join a user group, okay? Another thing, right? Another thing is that if you're missing information, go get a book. Like literally, go get a book. There's no reason why you can't say Mike Cohn is your mentor. Get a book. Get a book. Get a book. Get a book. Does that make sense? Get a book. Tom drops a resource here. I trust Tom tremendously, so I trust this resource. 4 key facets of successful mentoring relationships. But let me explain to you all my last mentor that I had. The one thing that I at least realized for me when I have a mentor is that it's an exchange. It's an exchange. See, like when I have my kids, I'm succession training, right? I'm really succession training because I expect them to take the throne, right? But in this professional environment, you're not taking the throne per se. Does that make sense? You're not taking the throne. And so what a lot of people don't realize is if you're trying to get a mentor, you may want to offer that mentor something in return. It doesn't have to be financial. The best mentoring relationships that I've ever have been me exchanging something with them. So for example, when I first joined my fraternity, right, an older guy mentored me, right? And what I helped him with was getting on the internet, learning how to run the internet, learning how to do things that was more up to date. And that's how we built our relationship. There was some kind of an exchange that happened. Does that make sense? And so realistically, what I'm going to say to you is a lot of people will not mentor you if they don't see you bringing them any value as well. Because you can mentor people, you can mentor a million people, but what happens is you end up burning the mentor out. And you burn the mentor out, then the mentor doesn't want to mentor anymore, right? And so it's almost like, I remember when we did free classes, and people took advantage of that. Like, took bad advantage of that, right? When we did the hardship classes, people took advantage of that. So when you have these people that give time, they can't take everybody. So normally how you stand out is with exchange. Does that make sense? And so, but before you even think about that, have you exhausted all the resources available to you? Like, I would consider, okay, so if I stand back, I would consider Tom Mellor to be one of my mentors. If I called Tom to ask him for something, Tom would help me. But me and Tom have we had a starting working relationship that started off in some kind of way. And so he poured into me partially because we were working on stuff together, right? So it was helpful, and I was hungry. And once I left and skyrocketed, I went on and did what I was supposed to do, and I tried to solve all my problems myself. So really be careful. Go and get all the information that you can, and you'll find people that will help you. You will find them, but they're located in the places where agile people kind of exist. So I go back to, been to a Scrum gathering? Have you been to a Agile Alliance conference? Any regional conferences? Because, different user groups put on different things. And when you get to know these people, they tend to pour into you. So I don't think it's hopeless for you finding a mentor, but for everybody in the room, are you going to user groups? Are you going to the places where agile people exist? Go there. There's no reason for you to go there because it don't cost no money. Maybe buying a book costs some money, right? But there's a lot of free resources online. So be really careful about getting a mentor, and make sure if you're going to get a mentor, that mentor is right for you. Like, literally, the mentor needs to be right for you. As much as you want a mentor, you need to make sure that mentor is right for you, but make sure you're pouring into that mentor as much as that mentor is pouring into you. Otherwise, the relationship may not last for very long. So, I have people who I consider to be mentors for me, and it's been a relationship that was built in some kind of way based on some kind of exchange. It always has been, at least when I found the best mentors. Okay. So anyway, I think you'll find a mentor. I think you just, let's see. I've reached out to people who aren't true to Scrum. And they try to alter my thinking with knowledge I've already acquired. So how should I go about this? Go get more knowledge in the places you've been getting knowledge from until you find the right people. And just reaching out to people in general, it doesn't mean they got more knowledge than you in terms of Scrum. The only way that I know who is really true to Scrum is for me building relationships with them. So have you built a relationship with them? Like, literally, are you just reaching out to people? Or are you building a relationship with people? Are you getting to know people so you have an idea of what they know before you ask them to become your mentor? It would be great if you found people who was aligned, with the way you were thinking. You may have something else in common. Does that make sense? So all these things help. Not to mention, another good thing is you can come here and ask questions, right? So the reason why I started this show is because this is my way of attempting to mentor people attempting to help people 24/7. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is my attempt of helping people 24/7. Because what happens for me is I get the same question again and again and again. And so this allows me to answer those questions. But I think it's findable. I think you gotta build. I think you gotta build the relationship with people. And you're saying here, yes, I reach out to people who are project managers, product owners, they're thinking it's slightly different than mine. Then it sounds like those are the wrong people to reach out to. But that doesn't mean give up. Does that make sense? And just because you have a role of a project manager or a product owner or whatever it is, that doesn't shape your mindset. I was a project planner when I was at State Farm. That didn't shape my mindset at all. I mean, my mindset wasn't even close to being a project planner. It was like stupid. So anyway, let's continue. I think we spent enough time on that topic. So next thing is, how do you deal with management when you want to suggest an agile framework, but they want to do the same thing? So here's the deal. My question for you is, how much guts do you have? Because you can just do things in stealth. You go ask for permission, they say no, you do it in stealth, right? I would probably ask for an opportunity to run an experiment, an opportunity to run a small experiment where we try it on something, right? And a lot of times with management, Philip, they don't have a reason or desire to really change, because management that exists between your highest level and the people that's doing the work, their job is to keep the ship running exactly the way that it's running. Their job is to maintain status quo. And so now what you're doing is you're suggesting something that's different than status quo. So why should they do what you're talking about? Especially if they haven't seen it work before. Or they might say to you that it's worked over here before. Why should I make it? You understand what I'm saying? So the idea is, most management just wants some idea that it's going to work. Most management, their job may be on the line if you fail, right? There may not be a true catalyst for change. So if it's me, Philip, I'm going to try to get and convince them of running an experiment. Another thing I will say to you is this. Some organizations just will not be willing to change. And so you also have to say, is that the company for you? Because they're not the only organization on the planet. And you could sit there and spend your whole life trying to change them, or you might just decide to go to another organization and do whatever you need to do. You know, when I was at State Farm, I was a consultant then, but that was when I had to make a decision to leave, because there was no way I was going to become a project manager and be able to do what I desired to do. It just wasn't going to happen from what I could see. And so it was one of the reasons why I decided to leave, because I just wasn't going to be able to do what I saw Tom doing. I just wasn't going to be able to do it. So why would I decide to stay? And I don't have any influence. I don't have any power. I don't have any ability to make people change. So you might be in that position, Philip. So if I'm you, I would try to find some way I can run an experiment. Find someone who is willing to hear the story. Find someone who is willing to see a change happen. Also, you have a situation where if you're already working there, you might be able to kind of run your own small experiment, you know, within what you have control over. Understand, I'm not saying for you to go out and do something outside of what you have control over, but within what you have control over, maybe you can run a small experiment that's Agile-esque within that box. And that can be your example. That can be the thing that you present and say, we've tried this and this is how it worked. We'd love to expand this. So can we run a for experiment? Hopefully that makes sense. Philip. But that's what I would do. Especially if I still want to be at the organization. Doing this stealth, it's a problem. If you're trying to toe the line of the organization. If you don't care about towing the line of the organization, then just get fired and just run what you want to run. So good question, Philip. Let's see. They prefer to use Excel, not provide more information about the process. So you can provide a. They prefer to use Excel. Well, there are free tools that exist. So if you're asking, but Excel does a lot of great things, man. I'm not, I mean, so in the beginning, there. Okay, so in today's world, there's a lot of tools that exist that can help you with the process. So I don't recommend a single tool. I'd rather for you to use index cards and put it on the wall. But can I really say that in today's world where we kind of got COVID still running around? But there are tools that range from as simple as Trello, which is owned by Atlassian, and there's Jira associated with Atlassian. You have Microsoft in its suite of tools. You have IBM in its suite of tools. You have open source tools. You have standalone kind of tools like a version 1, CA Central or Rally. There are tools that exist, but here's what those tools don't do. They don't provide unique customization. Not customized in a way where you can do pivot tables and run formulas and everything else like that. So if I'm you, if they prefer to use Excel, what I would do is I would find the essence of what the Excel is doing for them. What problem are they really solving with Excel? And I would try to solve that problem with a different tool that would actually meet our process a little bit better, that would fit better with the Scrum team, that would fit better with how the team is doing work. That's how I would think about it. But people in the attachment Excel is real. I mean, I've built entire systems in Excel, decision support systems, and they work very well. So that might be a hard one to break, but I believe you can break it by figuring out the purpose behind the tools that they're using, and then finding a way to meet that purpose in a different way with a different tool, getting them the same result they've been looking for. That makes sense, Philip? So hopefully that helps out. Let's see. Scrum fails when teams stop. Scrum fails when teams stop following the events and see no value. Sees no value. Well, you know, I won't say that Scrum completely fails when we stop following events. Right? I've had teams that don't really value a daily Scrum very much, and did they fall apart when they stopped doing a daily Scrum? They did not. They didn't. Right? They didn't. Skipping a retrospective here and there, they didn't fall apart. As I've been told here, you can actually. It's not your job to make them do something. It's not your job to make them, right? Yeah, advise them, yeah, but not make them, and that's a very different thing. So important. Let's see. So thank you for that one, Evelyn. Thank you. Let's see. Patrick says, I see Scrum as a foundation. You should be able to evolve past just the basics and ceremonies to be able to apply different frameworks, methodologies that are best suited for your situation. And I'm not a Scrum. I'm not a guy who says you only should be doing Scrum. I agree with you, Patrick. I think you can evolve and do other things. Do I think that when I think about Scrum, though, I think about it as simply being a problem-solving tool. That's it. You make your time box plan, you evaluate the plan daily, you learn about the product and the process, and you start all over again. That's all Scrum is to me. If I take out the essence of the events and things of that nature, I still can do the basic problem-solving framework within Scrum and call it something different. But we always tend to add things to it. We always tend to subtract things from it. We always call it Scrum Butt. But if your team finds something better, if they work better with a different process, look, man, this thing is about delivery. If you're not delivering, what is the point? Like, literally, what is the point? So whatever gets a team to deliver the best, I say do that, whatever that is. If they can deliver by twiddling their thumbs all day and that gets them to deliver, man, do that, man. Do that, whatever it is. But I don't disagree with you at all, Patrick. Some people just need the structure of a process. Other people like the flow a little bit different. Organizations are organizations. There's some places where I lean toward Kanban, other places where I lean toward Scrum, other places where I lean toward something different, right? I'm a software guy. I like extreme programming a lot. I really do, but I always have liked it a lot. But it's probably the thing that causes the most pain, at least for me, because organizations don't get it right. But yeah, Patrick, I think that's a really good statement. Let's see. I think this was an answer to what we said earlier. He doesn't know Scrum or other methodologies. I explained it, and he mocked it. And despite explaining and trying to convince him, look, man, let me tell you something, Philip. I've done a lot of Scrum and not called it Scrum. Like, literally. You can sit up here and fight these people about whatever it is, but I've done a lot of Scrum and not called it Scrum. Understand what I just said. Make a time box plan. Evaluate that plan daily. Learn about the thing you built. Learn about the process. Do it again. Whatever you call those things within that, it doesn't matter. So maybe that person is just stuck. My first 5 years in Scrum, probably one of the biggest things that I would run into is the word Scrum feeling like something nasty. The word Scrum, right? And so, any organization when Scrum got kicked out the building, when I came back for round 2, we was doing Scrum, but we called it Lean Agile. We completely called it Lean Agile, right? It was all the elements of Scrum. You add the normal things that we always add to it, but they would not call it Scrum. And that same organization from 2007, when I was around, to 2019, is when they first got their first Scrum Master title, or at least official job title in the organization. So it definitely is one of those things that happen. But if I'm you, I do my best to explain it. I give it to them without all the extra fluff. If you got to change names, and you just get into the essence of what it is, that's what you do. When I was a time when I couldn't get teams to run anything lower than a 4-week sprint, then I would agree with, let's have a mid-sprint planning. Let's have a mid-sprint planning session. So let's go for about 2 weeks, and then let's have a little planning session right in the middle and determine what we're going to do for the next 2 weeks. Well, realistically, they just wanted a 4-week sprint because they wasn't feeling insecure. But getting them to have that mid-sprint planning, that mid one right there, guess what that did? That convinced them to do 2 weeks. Ultimately, I didn't have to fight them ultimately to get the 2 weeks done, because we were already doing it for the most part. So, Philip, don't get stuck on the words. Don't get stuck on the titles. You're dealing with real people out in the real world now. If I go and talk to a bunch of business people, I don't just go talk to them about user stories. I probably would say the word features. Does features really have a place within the Agile community? I mean, it does, but then it doesn't. It doesn't have this place where it fits naturally, right? People think of it in different ways, right? Some people think that a feature is the same thing as a user story. Some people think that a feature is equal to epic. Some people think that a feature breaks down into epics. Some people think epics break down into features. They got all kinds of things that they think about these things. But here's the deal. Why do I call it a feature if I'm talking to a business person? Because they associate a feature with a requirement. If I was to say user story to people who don't know any Scrum lingo, who don't know anything about Agile, then I have to teach them about Agile. And in a simple conversation, it may not be worth me doing that. And so I use the word feature because it's easier for me to get to the same place without spending all the time trying to explain something that could cause confusion, that takes a little bit of time for me to explain. And sometimes I just don't have the time to explain that, and that's okay. So just do what you need to do. So if he doesn't get it, he doesn't understand it, explain it to him in a different way. And if he don't want to do it, if he doesn't want to do it, and that's your one gate that you have to do Scrum, and you have no other options in the world, and what you want to do is Scrum, I'm going to ask you a question. Why are you still at the company, man? You need to think about your career now. You need to think about your career. Does that make sense? You need to think about your career. Because, it's one of those things, man. You work 8 hours a day, man. That's a third of your life, man. And you need to get yourself ready to go. You need to position yourself to make a jump. Now, you may love that company, but don't sound like the company loves you. You may love them, but it don't sound like they love you. But if that's your gate and that gate is stopping you, and you can't move around it, you're gonna have to make some career decisions. Is okay. That's what I would do. This is not in this show. I am not offering you any financial advice. What I am talking about here is for educational purposes only. That's my disclaimer. That's my disclaimer, man. So did you just hear my Philip? Did you hear my disclaimer? Did you hear my disclaimer? Oh man. But you got a whole wife, man. So tell her to hold it down, Philip. Tell her to hold it down. Yeah, I'm not telling you all to make any financial advice, for real. But the idea is real simple, man. I'm like this. I'm not going to be unhappy for most of my day at work. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to be stressed out, right? Life is too short for you to be stressed out at work all day, every day. Because the organization is unwilling to change. If the organization is unwilling to change the organization. Change the organization, right? That's the way I look at it. Yeah. That's okay. Take your time getting out there, man. Just do your thing, right? But just know that if they're not willing to shift and you want to shift and you want to do something different, it may be time to look at other options. Is the best way I would put it. Or maybe you can go in and be inside the organization and move someplace else, right? Where you don't have the gate person there. Okay. Change is constant, but the one thing we all resist. You have to work your RACI chart and identify the stakeholders who can make things happen and work on convincing them. And maybe you can do that. I think that's good advice, Patrick. I think that's excellent advice. If you have a RACI chart, put the chart to the side for a second. If you know the powers that be or stakeholders that can help convince them, then maybe you can do that. Now, that might get you fired faster, though. Because if you talk to the wrong person and they come to you and like, why did you go beyond me or around me or whatever it is, they may come after you. So it could be career limiting as well. But if you got a RACI chart, if you know who your stakeholders are, if you know who the decision makers are, then maybe you can work some magic. And working magic is always a good thing. I try to work magic every once in a while. Other than that, I tend to get fired. It's not a good example for anybody to follow. But I normally get fired on my principles. That's what normally happens. It's my principles. So principles don't feed children is the problem. So if you got little bitty kids, man, again, this is for educational purposes. This is not for financial advice. So So thanks, Patrick. I appreciate those comments and what you said was real. I really appreciate that. And yes, culture is a problem in a lot of organizations. I would agree with that too. 10,000%. So it's just the way it rocks, people. It's the way it rocks. It just is what it is. I mean, I'm just again, take your step, look out there, evaluate the landscape, see if you can make moves internally, externally, and do what's in the best interest of you and your family. Nobody knows what's in the best interest of you and your family but you. So do what's in your best interest for you and your family, right? I know when I left State Farm, somebody put Capital One put they put a offer letter that doubled my salary. That was in the best interest of my family, right? But yeah, they literally put an offer letter that was double, so I couldn't even say no. I put it in front of the wife at the time because she's the ex-wife. Put it in front of her, and she was like, "You got to leave." I was like, "Okay." There's nothing I can do. What can you do at that particular point in time? She's like, "You got to go. Bye. When you leaving?" So that's what that was all about. So anyway, all right. So anyway, that's about it. So I think we got all the questions answered. I didn't see any other additional questions. So anybody doing anything special for the holiday, Labor Day? Because Monday we're not meeting here on Monday. So Monday, let me look at my little calendar to make sure I'm not crazy here. Monday, let's see, September the 5th. That's Labor Day. So we're not officially going to have the Unfiltered Call-In show on that day. I've tried doing it on Mondays, and nobody shows up. I did. I said, we're going to go on Monday, and we're going to make it happen, and then nobody shows up. I think everybody forget because they're having all kinds of fun with their family. So anybody doing anything special for the holiday? Going any place special? Doing anything special? Drop it in the chat. I'd love to hear what you're doing. I'd love to see what you're doing. Me, I'm staying my tail in DFW. I'm going to stay down here in Texas. I'm not going to travel anywhere. I'm going to call my daughters that's in college. I'm going to wait for my son to come back sometime in September from being deployed overseas. And I'm just going to just kind of like my aunt, she had this heart attack, so she's in rehab, so she's coming out around that time. She's gonna be coming down to Texas, so I gotta make sure I look out for her. That's gonna be what it's about for me. Just probably engaging family. I may even decide to do a barbecue. Family been asking me to do a barbecue at the house. I may decide to do that. But I see nothing in general. Probably what I'm gonna do is, man, I'm gonna be you know what I'm gonna probably end up doing? I'm gonna end up studying. Since I got this whole class situation, right? I'm gonna end up studying, right? You know what? I should add you as a daughter. No, I'm people's godfather, so I got a godfather, and as stated, Tom's godfather is Ken Schwaber, and so that means that Ken Schwaber is my grand godfather, which means that if you hanging out with me, that means that he's your great grand godfather. Anyway. All right, so let's see. Did you ever decide on creating a Scrum team for the Unfiltered Call-In show? Jamila, my problem is this. My problem with this, because this is what people asked before, is I've been thinking about it, right? And the problem is that I have no room for any Scrum Masters. So my issue is, in terms of building the show out, I need people that have certain skills in order to do things that we need to do. I haven't been able to determine that. But part of my time frame before we come back is I'm going to determine whether I really can do it, because I can't have a Scrum team full of Scrum Masters is the problem. And everybody wants to be a Scrum Master as a volunteer, but not necessarily a worker within a Scrum team. So there's way more developers than there is. And so I need to determine what we can actually do, because we got to deliver something. It's not that we do it for the sake of doing it. Like I said, we need a catalyst. And so I'm determining that, Jamila. So be patient. I will let you know if it's going to be a go or no-go in 2 weeks when we come back from the whatchamacallit, from the holiday. So that Monday after that, I'll for sure know whether we can make it a go or not, okay? So for those who don't know, I was trying to recreate something so we can have an opportunity for people to volunteer, because people always talk about they want to get some experience in terms of doing Scrum. But what most people want to get is experience in terms of being a Scrum Master. And everybody can't be a Scrum Master on a team. Okay? So I'm going to work on that. And 2 weeks from now, I will be able to answer that question. Okay, Jamila? So just so you know. Yeah, let's see. I connected with someone at Brandon Land that's creating a job seeker Scrum team. Okay. No, that's excellent. That's excellent. So get it together for you, Jamila. And if it turns out good, then bring it back to the show and maybe you can share it with other people. Okay. But first, work on you first. Got it? First, work on you first. Please do that. Let's see. You're going to work with your siblings. Let's see. That would make us siblings, Jennifer. Okay. We got a bunch of siblings here, right? Hopefully, right? So, that being said, I think that's our time, people. I'm going to say to you all, as usual, I appreciate you. This has been another good show. We're going to be here 2 weeks from now, and the topic 2 weeks from now is going to be, I don't know, the top reason product owners suck. That's going to be our next topic. Did you hear me? Our next topic is going to be the top reason product owners suck. Okay? So, that being said, I'm going to see you all 2 weeks from now. That's going to be on September 12th. Remember, the 5th is a no-go, right? Everybody's on holiday at that point. So, I'll see you September 12th. I'll get everything all set up for then, and I'll have answers about the volunteering stuff. So, other than that, y'all, I'm going to say, look, everybody, enjoy your holiday. Have an amazing night. Have a most amazing week. Make it real lightweight if you're working this week. Make it real lightweight. Like, ease your way into the holiday weekend, you know? Other than that, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I will see you in a couple weeks. Enjoy your holiday. And I'll see you in 2 weeks when we talk about the top reason why product owners suck. Have a good night, y'all.